Welcome to FieldLink. I'm your host, Bill Smith. It's National FFA Week, and we're excited to have a few members from the state officer team in Tennessee join us in the FieldLink studio to share their story as we celebrate National FFA Week. Did you know that Helena not only provides growers from across the nation agronomic solutions, but we also provide products and services for home and commercial pest control and landscapers from across the nation? In this episode, we sit down with Todd Batchelder from Rentokill in Delray Beach, Florida. We discuss how his business provides a wide range of pest control services to local HOAs and commercial businesses in South Florida, ranging from insect and rodent control to tree and landscape management services. Plus, Jody and Brady Lawrence from Nashville help us become a little bit more cotton-wise in 2024. They'll discuss and share some tips that might help cotton producers take advantage of some of the uptick in the cotton market. Stay tuned for this episode of FieldLink. Welcome back to FieldLink. I'm your host, Bill Smith. I want to welcome the Tennessee State Officer team here. We've got a handful of them here joining us today here in the podcast studio here in Memphis, Tennessee. With us is the State FFA President for the state of Tennessee, Ella Hasty. Ella, welcome to FieldLink.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
All right, and we also have Abigail Ham. She is the West Tennessee State Vice President.
Hey, I'm honored to be home.
All right, you're back in West Tennessee today. And Gracie Flemons. Gracie's our state secretary. Gracie, welcome to FieldLink.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
All right, and finally we have Maddie Rodell. Maddie is the state reporter. Welcome, Maddie.
Hi, I'm honored to be here.
All right. Well, ladies, it's great to have you here in the FieldLink podcast. This week is National FFA Week. You guys are on a goodwill tour across the state of Tennessee. I know your compadres, the other half of the team, are in East Tennessee this week, visiting different businesses and industries. Tell us a little bit about the goodwill tours and what they're really all about.
Yes, Goodwill Tour has been around as a Tennessee tradition for a very long time now, where the state officers get to go across the state and just tour with a lot of, whether it's the chapters or a lot of businesses that support Tennessee FFA in honor of FFA Week. So whether it's down here in Memphis or up in the mountains for the other half of our team, we're learning so much about agriculture and just so thankful to have so many people celebrate FFA Week with us and keep these traditions going.
Well, National FFA Week, it's a great celebration across the country. Your fellow state officers from across the nation in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands are all celebrating National FFA Week here. Abigail, tell us a little bit about some of the activities taking place in Tennessee this week as it relates to National FFA Week.
So as Ella mentioned, we are very busy this week. 8 of us girls, 8 of our teammates, we are all around the state. And so like for our West Tennessee crew, we were able to visit the First Farmers Co-op in Lexington, Tennessee. We were able to meet with the grassroots of agriculture and meet with co-op members. We traveled over to Crockett County FFA to meet with high schoolers, to meet with our officer team, and aided a local eatery. So it's good to have that local feel on Goodwill Tour, meeting industry people. And we also got to tour their facilities. It's amazing to see at the smaller level what these chapters are able to accomplish. And then for our East Tennessee team, they're making a lot more collegiate visits. I know that they were attending University of Tennessee Knoxville breakfast this morning, and then they'll head over to the Weigel's headquarters, things like that, meeting with FFA members as well. And as for the rest of the week, we have legislative visit coming up, so we're very excited for our legislative breakfast to meet with people all around our state.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of good tours, meeting a lot of people and engaging with the community. That's really great. Gracie, tell us a little bit about home. Where's home for you, and how did you get involved in FFA?
I'm so happy you asked that. I actually grew up in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. I kind of claim all of Wilson County, kind of all over. But I grew up with no agriculture experience, actually. Didn't have any family members in it, and the only other person in my family that wore the blue jacket was my brother. So I got in kind of the same situation that he did. I got into my first ever ag science class, and it took just that one thing for me to get hooked. And I did everything my advisors would let me do, competing in so many different contests, creating SAEs, spreading agriculture education across Wilson County, and even starting a show team at Mount Juliet High School and starting to show Dorset Advantage sheep. So that's kind of where I got my start. And I went to my first ever national convention when I was only a freshman. And I was like, I want you to make me a state officer to my advisor. And ever since then, I was working towards this goal. And that's kind of how I have worked for it to get this position.
Awesome. Great story there. And Maddie, tell us a little bit, as state reporter, you get to report on a lot of things in Tennessee FFA. I was a state reporter in Nebraska many, many years ago. So tell us a little bit about the growth of FFA in Tennessee and really across the country.
Well, I'm glad we were both able to share that title. I know it's something that's really special to me, but as a reporter, one thing I love to do is just highlight members and chapters from across the state. Seeing that it is National FFA Week, a lot of chapters have been posting things like SAE Sunday, where they can share their supervised agriculture experiences, or Teacher Tuesday, where they're sharing about their advisors and ag teachers from all across the state. And especially a lot of the growth that we see these days, Tennessee is ranked 7th in the nation right now as far as membership, and we're just continuing to grow. We have over 32,000 FFA members across the state. So I'm really just excited to see where this organization heads in the future.
Wow, it's interesting. The numbers continue to climb nationally for the FFA, and that's a great experience for a lot of youth. And clearly, as an industry, we continue to need to, reload with young energy, and you all four are great examples of that. Today, you all got to come to Memphis and spend a little time at the Helena Products Group. And hopefully, unlike some other tours, you got some hands-on experience here today. Ella, tell us a little bit about some of the things you learned in the Helena Products Laboratory.
Yes, so going into the laboratory was super exciting because we got to put on, our goggles and gloves and everything and actually really get involved. So they had really great demonstrations that showed us how the Helena products work compared to just, for example, normal water, what those droplets look like on the leaves, how the leaves actually take in those nutrients and the things that the products are providing. And it was very neat to see that hands-on and actually understand. Sometimes some words can get thrown around, but seeing that with our own eyes, getting to actually do hands-on opportunities like these, we really got to understand how important these products are and how they've been around for many years and are continuing to change and innovate over time. Through different experiments that we got to do in the labs, it really just helped us to understand that.
Yeah, and Abigail, you got to actually go through a formulation process where you guys actually made a foliar fertilizer. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
So we actually were able to walk into the lab, and they had pretty much everything set up for us. It was an amazing experience. And we were able to take certain micronutrients and add them into a base, which was then mixed up right before our eyes. We watched it turn from clear to blue to bright green, and of course, in the Helena spirit, we love the bright green. But yes, it was really cool to see that transformation in front of your eyes. Again, like Ella said, you hear the words, they say the things, but until you see it and then you understand an application later, how it's used, it's a wonderful experience. And I think it really helps connect us to agriculture so that way we're able to explain these to future FFA members.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Through these experiences, the hands-on experience, I think, is really important. And you're right, Abigail, you can talk about, big, fancy chemistry words, but until you touch it, feel it, and do it, it really kind of connects the dots, especially the grounded example that we talked about with the water going through and the yellow. Tell us a little bit about that, Gracie. What did you experience from the grounded demo with the sand?
Oh, that was just really cool demonstration. Something that you don't think about whenever you look at a field, like especially whenever things are getting sprayed all the time and people are using different pesticides or whatever it might be, or herbicides, and being able to see that firsthand with how the water came down as if there was a big flood or a big rainfall, kind of just like on a smaller scale, really puts it into perspective on how important each of these products are for our agriculturists in our state and across our nation.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Gracie, for sure. A great demonstration of how technology can impact agriculture and our environment, to help protect our environment in the future as far as that goes. Well, ladies, I want to thank you all for coming here to the Helena Products Group and helping us celebrate National FFA Week here in Memphis at the Helena Products Group. Welcome back to FieldLink. I'm your host, Bill Smith, and today we have Todd Batchelder. Todd is with Rentokill, which is based in Delray Beach, but you guys have had quite a journey there, haven't you, Todd? Going through lots of, it was a homegrown business, and now you've been acquired through several journeys. But before we get too deep, Todd, tell us a little bit about you, where's home, and how did you get into the specialty industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So where do I start? Wow. I'm from South Florida as well,
Okay.
near the Delray Beach area, so I know the area very well. I sold copiers
Really?
for 16 years, 17 years or so,
Yeah.
and that industry just completely changed and just stumbled upon this industry.
Really?
I wish I found it, as, entering into the work field, but,
Sure.
it took a little while to get here, but I'm here. And I just couldn't consume enough of it. It is so intriguing. There's so many different variables to it.
Yeah.
And there's so much to know.
Sure.
And there's a lot of reward to this type of business as well, you can see the work that you're putting into it. And at the end of the day, we make things look nice.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think that's important for our listeners to know. Let's talk a little bit about what you do, what your company does in Delray Beach. What kind of sectors do you work with? Homeowners? Do you work with commercial businesses? What kind of services do you provide?
So we're full scope of pest control, termites, home pest, commercial pest, all of it.
Sure.
But we also have the landscape aspect,
Okay.
where we'll do fertilize, weed, insect, disease control. Again, homes, businesses. We have found a niche with the HOA market.
Okay.
We deal with a lot of management companies that have these large properties where there's 1,000 plus homes in there, and we're in charge of all the plant material.
They take care of it. And that's very big for a lot of our listeners in Florida. HOAs are huge in a lot of cases, and where you can go in, deal with one entity, and they contract with your company to provide services like landscaping and pest control.
Right. Yes. So we'll come out there. We'll make sure that you don't have any of your lawn destroying insects. Nutrition, and again, of course, working with Helena, coming up with different solutions for various things that are happening on the property, whether it's preventative, reactive. There's all aspects to
A
it.
wide range of different services that you certainly provide. Let's talk a little bit. What are some of the major pests that you deal with on a day-to-day basis in those HOA situations?
Well, it's South Florida, so there's quite a bit of bugs we deal with, and it's year round. There's not really much of a break. So we will, a lot of chinch bugs, sod webworms, armyworms, those types of things, grubs. One of the most challenging lately has been whitefly.
Okay.
We do a lot of ficus, a lot of palm trees, and we had a period of time where spiraling whitefly came through.
Okay.
Did a lot of damage, and then we were able to kind of eradicate it. You really don't see it a whole lot anymore. But there is, I guess, a new biotype of whitefly that's been challenging, to
Really?
say the least.
And as a pest, what does the whitefly actually do? Does it destroy the plant, or is it just a pest to the human?
Well, so no, it actually destroys the plant. It's
Okay.
a sucking piercing insect. Will make the tree actually defoliate.
Okay.
Very unsightly when you have a 15-foot hedge blocking your neighbor, and you've got a big giant gaping hole that's going into your living room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden the plant material's gone, and they can look right into your living room in that case.
There you are.
Yeah. And that's, again, very important to people that are in HOA situations. A lot of times those homes are a little closer together and well manicured, of course, but pest control is really critically important.
Yeah, oh, yes, sir, absolutely. Again, South Florida, we're loaded with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, very important. And again, it's protecting your property as well as health.
Right. There's a lot going on there. Speaking a little bit about South Florida, you can't pick up the media. You've got a lot of people moving to Florida right now. And I'm assuming the HOAs are becoming more and more available,
Oh yeah, oh yes,
which is an opportunity for your firm.
most definitely. And they're still building. I mean, there's a lot of land still around, and they're still plowing it down and building it up.
Yeah, obviously very attractive, from the financial side of things, because you've got a lot of tax advantages, and a lot of us up here in the north like to escape to that 75-degree temperature that you're probably experiencing today.
Yes, and we thank you for your money.
They keep coming down, that's for sure. So, Todd, tell us a little bit about your team. You've got, I'm assuming, the pest group and then the landscape group, but tell us how you're organized.
Yeah, so it's a pretty well-oiled machine. There's a lot of work to do, though. So when you have a neighborhood that is 7 million square feet of plant material, you need the people. You need the right people, and you need to be able to properly apply products, of course, following label guidelines and laws, regulations, and just being good stewards of the environment. So, yeah, we have over 47 employees
Okay.
and numerous types of vehicles that they distribute throughout the properties with, whether it's spreading fertilization, spraying from a truck, riding on a spreader sprayer.
Sure.
We are a full service company, so we have to make sure that we're all certified and trained to be able to go out and implement all these different types of services.
Well, with an employee number of around the 47 or so employees, how do you attract talent to come work for you? That seems to be a challenge for all of us in agriculture, all of us certainly in the specialty business like yourself. How are you doing it?
Well, so South Florida, again, very tough market. There's a lot of competition.
Okay.
So therefore, everybody's looking for the people who actually want to work, right?
Sure.
A lot of people, and unfortunately, a lot of people are getting priced out of that area. And who wants to travel all that way to go to work? So yeah, the pool keeps shrinking and shrinking. Really, our best way of finding people is through our own people.
Okay.
Asking them, friends, family, neighbors. And we've actually had some decent success with that. And have been pulling more and more people in. So,
For sure,
but
yeah.
we can always use more good people.
Well, yeah, that personal connection, certainly it's kind of that first wave of verifying if this person's going to fit your culture, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Again, when these guys are out there working, they work very hard.
Right.
You don't want to disrupt that by having the wrong person in there because, again, they work super hard and they don't need any extra challenges put on them.
Right, yeah. And to your point, they're touching a lot of different things too. As you mentioned, fertility to nutritional sides of products for growing flowers to grass to you name it, and then dealing with the pest side.
Yes. We do have a pest control team as well. So we do keep that separated out to where you have your household pest and then you have your lawn pest portion of it. But yes, there is a pest aspect to the lawn as well. Lawn destroying insects, shrubs, your white fly. There's still plenty of pests to take over there.
So I think it's important too for listeners to understand, when we talk about the services you provide, certainly outside we touched on, the greenscape, if you will, side of the business, but also the pest side, which is inside the home. Your team offers services in that area, correct?
Yeah, we do. And I've really tried to, since coming in and purchasing Hometown Pest Control, I've really tried to change the way that we're approaching that. Gone are the days of spraying baseboards and just kind of hoping that they go away. We're instilling in our guys to be able to take the time, go around the property, inspect, make sure we're looking for sources, avenues, and conducive conditions. We want to take the fight to them where they live before they come into your home.
Help me understand, and our listeners understand, with your home services, are you entering the home once a quarter, once a month? How does that all work out?
So again, our customer base has been used to, for the past 25 years, of us coming inside their house every single month on the day and time that they wanted. And we've had to reintroduce to them that, hey, this is no longer the way pest control is done, and it's just not effective that way. We want to do the best service for you.
Okay.
Now, there are better products. However, these labels do require that we don't use them as often, and they can't be laid down as often. So we have changed from a monthly to a quarterly service. However, of course, if it rains and the ants come marching in, give us a call, and we'll come out and we'll take care of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Like a lot of things in technology, pest control's evolved. You guys have evolved from, hey, the first Monday of every month, and I'm going to be here at 11:30, and now you're going to a quarterly basis because technology has evolved.
Absolutely. It's easier to schedule, and it also allowed us to not have to tell the customer, hey, all of our prices have doubled, tripled, quadrupled. We've got to do so to you. Instead, we just said, hey, you're currently spending whatever you're currently spending per month. It's going to be the same. Your budget's the same. We deal with a lot of senior citizens that are 55 plus and these 55 plus communities, and we didn't want to disrupt that. So we just said, hey, we're going to change the service frequency. We're not going to give you worse service. We're actually going to use better products that's going to give you a better service. And we just changed the way we do it versus charging more.
Right. Less visits, but more effective visits.
Absolutely. It works a win-win for everybody.
It's interesting to hear the business model and how that has certainly evolved over time.
And listen, it's companies, like Helena that has been changing the technology to be able to do so.
I think that's a good point. We try to invest a lot of dollars in research and development to come up with better solutions that are more effective and more environmentally friendly. Because let's face it, the EPA is putting tougher and tougher restrictions on all of us, and we've got to raise to that occasion to be able to provide those kind of products that are going to best fit that particular customer.
Exactly.
Tell our listeners a little bit about, when we talk about pests, I mean, it's a wide range of pests. We talked about some of the flies and so forth, the white flies out there, but you also deal with, we mentioned ants on the show so far, but I imagine you have other rodents and birds and all kinds of things, correct?
Welcome to South Florida. Mosquitoes, and again, we call them pests, but it's not just because they're infiltrating coming into our home. They carry disease.
Right.
And we have a lot of water around South Florida. Therefore, we have a lot of rodents. And I tell you what, rodents are amazing. Just how intelligent they are and how they move about. They literally, as they come into your home or onto your patio and get to your grill, leave little droplets along with information.
Right.
Other rodents come along, they find that information and they say, oh, hey, here's a food source. Here's a good shelter. Our water's over here. And if you don't remove that aspect of it, you can trap them out all day, bait them all day. But the next batch that's passing by, they're going to bump into that information and just reinfest.
Wow.
Yeah, they're fascinating.
It's an amazing area, and if you live in an environment like that, control is critical, and consistent maintenance, I assume, is very, very important.
We need help. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not just that. We need help from the homeowners as well, or the business owner. You got to make sure that things are picked up. You got to make sure that things are tidy. If you get deliveries of boxes to your kitchen, get them out immediately. If at home you've got your deliveries.
Sure.
Lord knows I probably have 6 or 7 boxes sitting on my doorstep right now. When those boxes come in, unpack it, get the boxes out, because they usually will harbor roaches.
Wow, it can be just a home for rodents, roaches, whatever. Those Amazon boxes that are sitting on everybody's front porch, you better get rid of them real quick.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Wow. Interesting. Todd, talk to us a little bit about, you're certainly providing a lot of services for homes and commercial side of things inside for pest control. And of course, we touched a little bit on the outside side. But you guys get involved in a lot of different things and in terms of discovering, like, challenges out there. And one of the recent areas that your team came up with and you worked through some challenges was on foxtail plants. Tell us this story. A lot of our listeners are not familiar, again, with South Florida and some of the challenges you have, but tell us a little bit about this foxtail palm story.
I really enjoy finding these problems and then what's the solution, right? And I really strive to push through until we find it. So I'm going to use all resources and avenues to do so. We have a large community. There was, nearly 500 foxtail palm trees.
Okay.
That are on the property that they had planted. Hurricane knocked down some big, beautiful trees that they had in the swells, and they needed to replant something. They decided to go with palm trees.
So tell us a little bit about, for some of our listeners that we're familiar with palm trees, but what is a foxtail palm tree? How high does it get? And
They can grow pretty tall.
Okay.
Again, depending on how much fertility, water, the condition that they're in.
Sure.
They'll grow 20, 25,
So these are the big palm trees that we see on Gilligan's Island and that sort of thing.
Right.
Okay.
So this particular species was actually discovered not very long ago when you think about it, compared to a lot of other palm trees. I think it was in Australia or something, somewhere in the outback that somebody just stumbled upon and brought them over. They call them foxtails, though, because literally the fronds themselves are bushy and look like a fox's tail.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Wow. A lot of different. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
So anyway,
but
So we went to this HOA. They called us with this problem. We've been maintaining it for some time, giving it fertilizer, and then we treat the rest of the property as well. And they asked us, hey, why are these palm trees dying? Why are the branches snapping? Other branches are prematurely turning brown. Some of the new shoots that are coming up are just coming straight up and then snapping over, falling off. Are you actually doing your job? And for a minute, you kind of take a deep breath, hoping that, oh my goodness, I hope we fertilize these properly.
Did my guys miss this tree or not? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not the case.
So exactly. So, and again, help with Helena, my rep, Steve Reynolds from Helena, came out with me. We took a bunch of samples of soil.
Okay.
And then the different plant materials. So we took some of the roots as well as pieces of the fronds from the top of the tree. Of course, we got to get ladders out, make sure we get the ones from the the newer shoots that are coming out to just analyze what is going on. Do we have that nutrition in the ground?
Right.
And is the plant taking it up? So we get everything back from the labs, and Steve gives me a call and says, hey, something very strange is going on there. The soil has all the nutrition it possibly needs, but the plant is highly toxic with aluminum. Yeah, that's what I said.
Aluminum.
So we, dug some more and more, trying to figure out, is it the water source?
Right.
They have lakes there. A lot of properties will pump from the lakes, but they're not pumping from the lakes. They're using the same city reclaimed water that numerous other properties are using.
Sure.
So, we had to take that off the list.
Check that box. And through the Agri-Intelligence or RX360 system, we've got some of these tools like Steve was using, the High Ground and Extractor and some of these programs. Yeah,
exactly. So again, going through all of that, figuring all of that out, we then we decided to get the University of Florida involved.
Okay.
Great group of scientists, and they love what they do. So they love to get involved. It's not like, hey, you've got to pay them all this money to have somebody come out and help us out. No, they're ready to jump on it and figure out what's going on, and they want to know themselves.
Right.
So they come out, and again, we took samples together, and we got they looked at our old reports, then we got some new reports. We went through them again, and they said this isn't possible. Well, we said, well, here it is.
It's right in front of us. Yeah.
This has only been documented in, I guess, places in South America. So we kind of went back and forth with it. They then brought in another specialist as well. We actually wound up taking one of the palms out to analyze the roots and get down to the bottom soil and see what's in there. Ultimately, the university wanted to analyze more. They want to figure this out. They want to document this. They want to research this. They want to put all this stuff into it. My customer, the HOA, wants their palm trees looking nice.
Yeah. Let's fix it now.
Exactly. So I would have loved to have gone further in that process to really document this. What exactly is this? How is this? But we came up with a cocktail from Helena that actually was able to take that toxic aluminum out of the tree, or at least bring it to reasonable levels.
Sure.
And then added some other products that one would allow the receptors, the roots to actually take up and encourage the plant to take up the nutrition. And quite frankly, after the first treatment, I would say 90% of them turned around.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we did one other treatment to probably 30-something trees and or plants, and then another, I think, 5-10 more after that for a third treatment. But other than that, it was settled. Now, I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit further.
Sure.
Because I literally, just before I came here, I got reports back of another customer who's in a whole different zone.
Okay.
That is a residence, just a single resident that has the same thing in their foxtails.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it might be a bigger issue out there, potentially.
Yeah.
More to discover. But the good news is you were able to work with your Helena team and come up with a solution that sounds like several hundred trees potentially.
And hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, by the time you take all of those out, replace those plants, and,
What's the value of one of those trees on average?
You're usually about, just to go purchase the plant itself, you're probably $100 a foot.
Okay.
Of trunk, and you're on average they're probably 8 to 10 feet.
Sure.
$1,000 a plant, but then you've got to get somebody to remove the old ones.
Remove the old one, put the new one in, and make sure
the new one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're wrapping up several thousand probably before it's all said and done.
And then you're going to want to remediate the soil anyway.
Right.
Just, figure out whatever's going on in there. So yeah, you're into a lot of money.
Yeah. So looking pretty takes some cash, and if you have this toxicity like you discovered with aluminum, wow, what a solution you came up with, and be able to provide that homeowner an agronomic solution that makes sense and is safe.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that, and the customer ultimately was then satisfied and realized, hey, you know what? Yeah, you guys have been doing a good job all this time. And, it built a little more loyalty to us because we came to them and said, hey, here's this problem. We're figuring this out, and here's the solution. And then implemented that solution, solved it. And now, hopefully they stay with us a very long time.
A true solutions provider is what you are.
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great story, too. Todd, tell us a little bit about what's the future look like for your industry? What's, I guess, coming forward that you feel are some great opportunities?
So you mentioned earlier Rentokill Terminix.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we're still considered hometown pest control.
Okay.
The coming years, as we integrate and as we start sharing resources more so, we truly have an opportunity to give and be able to provide, the best services, the best products, the best people, the best research, all of it by having this particular partnership. So again, as we kind of condense, there's also going to be an opportunity to be able to reroute some things, to have a better density. So those are the kind of things that we're kind of looking forward to over the coming years of integrating into that with them as well.
From hometown to your new venture with Rentokill, Terminix, that combination there. Big brand out there for sure, with a lot of resources. And at the end of the day, trying to provide more service that's specific to your customers in South Florida.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Todd, I want to thank you for joining us here today on this episode of FieldLink and sharing your insight about the pest industry for homeowners and commercial units, as well as the landscape side of the industry.
I appreciate the opportunity. Definitely love coming on here and telling our stories. And hopefully we get to tell some more stories with you.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Todd.
Thanks.
You bet. And welcome back to FieldLink. I'm your host, Bill Smith. And joining us today in the studio is Jody and Brady Lawrence. Guys, welcome to Memphis and welcome to Helena.
Thank you, Bill. It's good to be back in the studio. It's always a fun place to do an update from.
Yeah, looking forward to today's update. We're bringing Brady in, who's going to be our cotton-wise expert here today. We're going to talk a lot about cotton and some opportunities there in the marketplace around cotton for a lot of growers that have that capability. But before we deep dive there, Jody, let's talk a little bit about kind of what's going on across a wider perspective. We're kind of in a weird time right now as far as really what traders are looking at, as well as what's happening in Washington, too.
Yeah, there's so much stuff because when you take out the South American weather issue that we had in October, November, and they're for both Brazil and Argentina in really pretty good shape considering they started off a little rough, that when you take that opportunity out of the market to trade, and the USDA certainly didn't help us last Thursday on their expectations for what Brazil, Argentina, and world demand for the next year are going to look like, you're really in a soft spot in the market. And it's flattened out even after December and January with the really sharp declines. You're in a spot where everything's just kind of treading water because corn and wheat can't get out of their own way, but they're not going down anymore. So that's the first positive.
Right.
While beans are really in an uproar, a lot of volatility, but still in a little bit of a downtrend because there's such a huge disparity in how big is Brazil's crop between the WASDE estimate last week and some of the private estimates that are coming from Brazil. So you've got an international agency telling the local agencies that they're not right, which I find to be incredibly funny when you look at what a price impact that could be.
Creating a huge tug of war on who's right. It's kind of a battle back and forth. And, we're sitting here in the marketplace going, who do we trust?
Exactly. And it's such a difficult position. And right now, because the market is just kind of forced to trade the WASDE number, we are definitely trading the larger number, the 156 million metric ton crop. But you have just the other day, what is the equivalent of the Brazilian Soybean Growers Association come out, tell all of their members to hold on to their beans because they think the crop is below 140 million metric tons. And that 15 million metric tons, a million metric ton of beans is 36.7 million bushels. So 15 times 36, just rounded up to 40. You're talking, 575 to 600 million bushels of beans, which is almost double what the U.S. carryout was last year.
Wow. A lot of concerns around soybeans and really what that overall supply is. Also impacting corn, too. Really kind of the only, I guess, excitement around corn right now is around the biofuels area. We still consider a little bit of chatter happening in that area as well.
Yeah, the ethanol demand certainly has stayed up this year as gas prices got lower. The corn prices started to fall. All the ethanol plants had nice margins, and the production stayed up. And the real battle moving forward, whether it's over the next 6 months, and really we should get some definitive answers in the next 2.5 years, is the SAF, the renewable biodiesel aviation fuel, and all of those crush plants that are going on, because as they come online and they need more beans, all of a sudden, if we make a big shift, and we could see it this year just simply from an economic standpoint, where you cut 3-4 million acres of corn and put those into beans, and just simply see what begins to happen on where the matrix figures out over the next couple of years how many acres of corn, how many acres of beans to satisfy both sides of the demand equation.
Well, and I was listening to some other folks talk about this the other day. They were in Frankfurt, Germany, and starting to see some of those facilities being put up for jet fuel already over in Europe. So it only takes one state like the state of California to say, hey, we want that kind of jet fuel now. Could really impact growers really in 24.
Absolutely, because you've got 8 or 9 that are currently open. You've got approval, and it's funny you mentioned California because a couple of weeks ago, their big plant got their final approval to start getting some beans delivered, and so that'll move on. And just that plant's going to use 110,000 bushels of beans a day.
Right.
And you figure they'll crush and produce for 300 days a year. You multiply that out over 30 facilities that are expected to be online by harvest of 25 or early 26. You're talking about a huge amount, 500-600 million extra bushels of beans that we could need on the conservative side, which you do the math, it's pretty easy at 50 bushels an acre, 500 million is 10 million acres of beans.
That's right, 10 million overnight. What there's really a kind of a stroke of a pen, and what's fueling that excitement is, well, kind of what's happening in Washington and around energy and the Farm Bill, and we're still kind of kicking that can down the road too.
Yeah, I think in a big election year like this that everybody takes the path of least resistance, especially politicians, that we're going to just see the current Farm Bill more than likely see minimal, if any, changes renewed and push it into, next year. I guess that would not expire until, 25 at that point. And I don't think there's really anything wrong with the Farm Bill. I've not heard any widespread complaints that, oh gosh, we got to go in and change this, or why are those people letting this continue? So I hadn't found anybody that's disappointed that it's going to be status quo.
Yeah, I think from what I'm hearing in Washington right now, it feels like a lot of legislators don't want to make the commitment. They're busy. They don't even know if they'll find time to get it done here in the next 30 days or so. So finding the time is going to be the big key in order to debate it. So I think you're right. It's going to kick down another year from now, and we'll come back here. The one thing that is certainly being talked about, though, is certainly, fuel and energy and the whole biofuel area. So that does have clearly some opportunity there. So, Jody, let's go ahead, pull Brady in here too. We got a lot of things. We've already talked corn, beans, kind of, it's just kind of a ho-hum. We're kind of in that weird stage right now. But the one area that's showing a little bit of promise is around cotton. Guys, what's going on in this cotton area? It's getting a little bit of attention right now.
Yeah, cotton has batted the last couple months that corn and beans have had. Cotton has actually seen a rally, which has given a lot of farmers better feeling going into planting in the spring that you can actually be profitable, and the banks will actually loan you the money to farm cotton instead of beans with an improved ratio where we were looking at it at 18-1 not too long ago. Now it's back down to 14-1, which is kind of the prime area where you're looking at profitable crop.
A good opportunity for growers that can raise cotton to take maybe advantage of this financial position. So Brady, as we take a look at these ratios like you mentioned, pretty good opportunity for some growers if the math works, obviously, on their operation and their farm. What's really driving this energy? What's really behind the excitement around cotton right now?
Well, there are a couple factors going on, and a lot of it comes from China. China right now, they're going to stop growing cotton in the Xinjiang province, and that will allow them to have to import a lot more of their cotton, which comes from the U.S., other players, but that means that they'll have to import all the cotton just to export their finished goods, where they used to be able to keep it, in the country, get it for cheaper. Now they have to buy cotton, which hasn't been necessarily the problem as the last couple of years.
Yeah, they haven't had a big demand, have they? We're coming off of COVID. That economy in China has been struggling, starting to make a little bit of a change there. And all of a sudden, we've got a shortage globally in cotton, and the big buyer out there is China, isn't it?
China's a big buyer, and you look at the new economic numbers came out today on U.S. inflation, that it was a little bit hotter than everybody expected. And what's really fueling it, you look at the consumption factor of how good the U.S. buyers have been to continue to keep the economy going, like the rates were still low from 2 years ago, because you've got consumer demand and the unemployment market is really tight. So you've got all the demand factors in the U.S. that the cotton market needs to see that exchange of physical cotton for finished goods that are coming back from China.
Right. So, guys, let's talk about, consumer demand for the U.S. for cotton and other products like this.
What we saw, and you look at the U.S. economy, and the inflation numbers came out a little hotter than expected because the U.S. economy continues to show that the consumers are buying, even though they're trying to slow down the U.S. economy and that consumption. But what we're seeing finally is, as the cotton market China needs the physical cotton because the consumption of the finished product in shirts, clothing, everything else in the U.S. and globally, as everybody has gotten used to the higher interest rate environment, is really been a positive for cotton, and that demand looks to continue because it's, you look at the price of cotton today, it's up another over a penny a pound, and it's now, it's an 18-month high.
Right.
So that's good to see for everybody. And cotton over 90, this goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about on beans. Cotton is going to take some acres from beans.
Yep, it has a great opportunity to do that. Like Brady mentioned, the banker might drive a little bit of that discussion because there is a great opportunity there. And as we talk about the economy, I think it's good for listeners to think about, we're coming off the COVID year, and although it feels like it's just yesterday, but it's been a couple years, the demand for clothes, the demand for cotton goods are certainly increasing, but spending is still happening out there. Consumers are spending cash or drawing up a big credit card in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it really is amazing, and I think that the Federal Reserve and a lot of the people in the Treasury are shocked that they are intentionally trying to throw cold water on the U.S. economy, and they simply can't do it because the unemployment numbers are great and hourly wages continue to go up and productive hours. It's an impressive thing, and the big concern really is for, you look at the age group now, getting in the workforce is that trying to afford a higher interest rate in a rising environment for the housing market. Because it was one thing that you understood why there was a problem when interest rates were at 3-4%, but now that they're at 8-9-10%, and there's still a problem, that really I don't know what wall that crashes into, but the housing market is something that I think it's going to be a particular problem moving forward.
It's definitely going to have a crash or a hit or something because we're not seeing housing necessarily drop. Building has slowed down, it feels like. But Boy, to your point, for the 20-something crowd that can't quite afford that new entry home like you could 30 years ago, 20 years ago, for goodness sakes, rent is still high. Rent is really high in some cases. I know this because I'm paying for rent for a couple kids in college. So it's tough out there from that perspective. Let's talk a little bit about some opportunities. We've talked about some of the trends around cotton, but as we take a look for growers, some cotton-wise strategies moving forward, what do you guys, yourselves and some of your colleagues, what are some tactics, I guess, growers could take a look at this year?
Well, from growers that we've talked to, seeing that the break even this year will probably be in the low 80-cent range on some cheaper land, not irrigated and everything like that. So right now you have an opportunity to maybe put some floors into at least kind of make sure you're break even. As bullish as some of these things are that we've talked about, it can change overnight. So you always want to provide some protection, and options in the cotton market are very popular. So some put strategies out there definitely would be worth looking at, because like I just said, it can turn overnight and you don't want to be caught on the wrong end of it.
Yeah, definitely some good options out there to really sit down with your advisors, financial advisors, your bankers, and really put some strategies together as we take a look at cotton this year for some of those acres that maybe haven't been in production the last few years. Guys, what are some other things that growers could consider, I guess, moving forward here in the next couple of months as we take a look at this cotton prop?
Really, that's about it. What we're encouraging everybody is, as they get their financing, because the bank certainly is more motivated now to help them put in some acres,
Sure.
is to get those, put floors underneath that and lock in where their profitability is, because you look at what happened this year. Just the U.S. corn crop's perfect example. Mm-hmm. In late June, we're at 625, and everybody could have made a bunch of money, but that's right when everybody was concerned about their crop. And now that we sit here $2 below that, right, after a big crop, you have to remember, just like Brady said, you don't know what the event or the day is going to be, but you know that shoe is out there to fall. And when you do have profitability, especially as these margins are getting tighter and tighter, as land gets more expensive, rent gets higher, that you've got to take advantage of it while you can. Because if you're just riding this thing with no strategy and completely unprotected, it's either going to be a home run or you're going to take strike three, because there's really not much room in between.
I think that's a great point, because now's a good time as we're creating this podcast here in mid-February. Now's a great time to be sitting down with your banker, your Helena representative, and really penciling this thing out. Is it going to make money for you? Where's your break even at? And really put some security in place.
Exactly.
Well, guys, I want to thank you all for joining us today here on this episode of FieldLink and helping us become a little bit more cotton-wise as it relates to marketing cotton in 2024.
Thank you, Bill. We always appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of FieldLink. To learn how you can further support the youth in agriculture, visit FFA.org and check out the National FFA Foundation section on their website, or contact your local FFA chapter to learn how you can become more involved in helping cultivate the future of agriculture.